If you love the thrill of racing but hate the risks, then buckle up. Everything Simulated is here to merge adrenaline with absolute safety. In a world where technology meets adrenaline, Everything Simulated is revolutionizing driver training with state-of-the-art simulators. From truck training to the thrill of motorsports, our simulators offer the most realistic experiences across all automotive applications. Gone are the days of endless bookwork and basic drills. Now it's all about hands-on, pulse-pounding action that prepares you for the real deal. Whether you're maneuvering a heavy mining vehicle or racing a high-speed car, our simulators, equipped with cutting-edge technology from leaders like Simrigs and Track Racer, bring every nuance of the drive to life. And talk about making a mark. We're not just building simulators, we're fostering talent. From grassroots motorsports to professional series like the Aussie Outlaw GT3, sponsored by us, Everything Simulated is fueling dreams and careers. Ready to feel the excitement of the racetrack under your fingertips? Connect with us, and let's build your next simulator adventure together. Remember, we support those who support us. Join the Everything Simulated family, and let's race towards the future.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the penultimate round of the Everything Simulated F4 Championship here from Winton. The final sprint round of the season to set up the championship finale, which is coming up next week from Suzuka. It is onto Winton, which is the first time in FDL competition we've used it over the course of Super Formula Lights or F4 competition. And yeah, very pleased to be here. Fading light, it looks like, actually, in the evening. We just stepped forward into qualifying at the moment, which will set up the first race of the day. It's myself, Ian O'Leary, and Jared Cole with you for tonight's broadcast, setting up the championship finale, as I say, to next week's race at Suzuka with a 45-minute feature. And Benjamin Roberts is going to look to win the championship tonight. I mean, needs to gain 27 points or more at the end of today, which could be quite difficult over Ocean Colangelo. However, he will look to do that if possible, and we'll see what the two of them get up to. But it's very much going to be the focus between the two of them, and indeed the silver class drivers as well, as they take on the last round that can be dropped in this season before next week, which is always a good thing. The last race of the season can't be dropped, so that always makes things a little bit closer and puts the pressure onto that final race next week.
It absolutely does, Ewan. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I tell you what, one of my favourite places to be at Winton is in the booth. I hate this track with a passion, and it dislikes me just as much. So my hat is absolutely off to all the drivers tonight. It is a vastly underestimated track. The layout and the actual track surface is one of those ones that can really sneak up on you if you give it just a little bit too much credit. And I'm certainly interested to see what happens tonight here in the Formula Drivers League F4 Championship. I think we should take a look at the points, Ewan.
Yeah, let's see how they're standing on the way after 6 rounds of the championship. Benjamin Roberts leading by 75 points over Ocean Colangelo after two very narrow, pitching out very narrowly 2 times, I should say, last week. Rather unluckily, you could say, or you know, just good driving. I don't know. Came Riders looking pretty secure in 3rd place, to be honest, ahead of Thomas Hinz, who's got a small gap back to Daniel Byrne in the rest of the top 5. Rashad Banerjee in 6th place, ahead of Danny Davison, Daniel Ackland, Tom Donoghue, and Alexi Watson rounding out the top 10. He's the Silver Class Championship leader by 41 points over Tristan McLaren. Todd Parks is 62 points back. It's quite far for a silver class, but you never know. There's rumours that Alexi Watson might miss the final round due to real-life commitments, so needs to extend that margin. Don't forget there's 100 points available for the victory in the silver, overall, I should say, in the final race of the season. odds, the silver class drivers are fairly unlikely to get up there and win the race overall, so maybe doesn't need to worry about that, but extending a bigger margin as possible certainly does need to worry about. Mitchell Halfway just needs to get a lot closer if he's going to be any sort of contender in the final race of the season. Never ideal when you're missing the final race of the season, that is for sure for Alexi Watson. So yeah, the pressure is massively on him tonight. I would say massively on him, more than it is on Benjamin Roberts, to be honest, even though Roberts would like to seal it tonight ahead of the finale next week.
Yeah, and despite the season that Roberts has had so far, he's not quite far enough ahead that he can afford to write next week off entirely. So, I think we'll see a strong showing here tonight from him, I'm sure, but it still won't be enough, or very unlikely to be enough to actually completely seal it up here tonight. You're absolutely spot on with Alexi Watson, and look, if he does miss next week's round, it won't be the first time I've seen a last round fall over for a driver due to real world impact, and it actually cost them a championship. I was just talking on Monday night actually about a driver in a league that we cover that was on for the win all season, got COVID, missed the last round, and that was just enough to hand over the championship title. So fingers crossed for Alexi. We'll see how he goes tonight. Hopefully he can do enough to try and guarantee it, or at least minimise the chance of losing out on that top spot.
Yeah, it's happened before, and it no doubt will happen again, but hopefully for Alexi Watson it doesn't happen in this season, because he has driven well. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't really remember a time this season where he hasn't been leading the championship in the silver class. I may have misremembered from early this week, because just looking at early this season, because looking back, he didn't score very well in rounds 1 and 2, so maybe that's a slight rewriting of history in my head, but he has been leading for a while now, that's for sure. And excuse me, he'd be very unlucky to miss out here. But there is the Winton Motor Raceway, a very interesting circuit, I've got to say. You say you don't like it very much as a driver. I've got to say I've never driven it, so only watching Fiat supercar races around here and things like this. I've never seen an open wheel race around here, so interested to see how it actually happens over the course of the day. But either way, we're about to find out, because the qualifying is over, a bit quicker tonight than normal. Benjamin Roberts is the pole sitter ahead of Oisin Colangelo. It's like any start front of the field, I should say, from any of the races we've seen this season. Kane Ryder being up there as well is just perfect compared to what we've seen this season as well. Thomas Inns in 4th. Hayden Millington then, the first maybe that we don't see so much of, in 5th place, ahead of Jackie Chung, who's taken pole in the silver class. Richard Banerjee and Dan Ackland are on row 4, headed Terry Nightingale Jr. and Matthew Vince, who round out the top 10 of the field. 11th place has gone to Angus Milner, ahead of Daniel Byrne, with Mark Keppel and Vaughan Ryder then on row 7. Tom Donoghue and Alexi Watson's down in 16th place, ahead of Tristan McLaren, so far from the best silver class driver in the qualifying session. Todd Park's there as well. Ben Ryder and Mitchell Halfway round out the top 20, with Scott Bartine and Dion O'Neill running out the top 11. Dylan Little and William Fraser should round out the field, because Jimmy Peacock is in race control and hopefully won't be crashing any safety cars tonight after his disastrous Bathurst showing on Tuesday, which I'm sure he won't enjoy me bringing up for the second time in 3 days. But
well, look,
anyway,
it is good to see Jimmy in the chat. It shows us that he's recovered okay from that incident. No major battle scars, I hope, Jimmy. Hope you're on the mend, mate. And a big hello to Fushi and, of course, Team Max Boost as well. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks.
Yeah, it's a moment I won't be forgetting in a hurry, that's for sure, on Tuesday. That's for sure. It was very amusing. Anyway, we are not far away from getting away here. A couple of drivers actually we haven't seen too much of this season actually getting underway at the back, so we'll talk about them maybe as we get on. But as you can see, 2x2 starts, not necessarily in the traditional Grand Prix style. If Colangelo gets off to a good start here, she could be through by turn 1, because they already start side by side. But let's find out as the lights come on from Winton, and we're underway for the first race of the day. It is a better launch from Colangelo initially here, and Benjamin Roberts got some thinking to do on the way towards turn number 1, it looks like, as they go through this chicane. Turns 1, and a bit of side-to-side contact. Colangelo on the inside at 2 and will not get through. There's a spin in the midfield. Thomas Hinge from 3rd place looks to have spun at least half spun, and he's dropped to the very back of the field.
not the start he will have been hoping for. Thomas Hinz not having the start that he wanted. We do have an incident in the background, though. That looks like one of the Team Max Boost drivers that has gone off the back. It is Ben Ryder that has run off track with, I believe, Scott Bartine, who has immediately picked up a meatball. So some damage to that car, and he's either going to have to limp it back or get a tow.
Yeah, he didn't seem to. I don't think it's one of those where he's got huge amounts of damage, in fairness, based on what I saw in the background of shot there. But he might just need a bit of time to limp that one back. Unfortunately, we also saw Vaughan Ryder run a little bit wide actually through that very same corner, but he didn't go off very far. He's only down to 19th place, just ahead of the rejoining Thomas Hinz, who's 20th. Look at the midfield here, very, very close. Chung is up to 4th place and driving very well for a silver class driver. Angus Milne quite a long way ahead of his rivals as well. As in the background, there goes Hinz down the inside of Ryder, or at least looks he will look to regain all of those places at the end of lap number 1. A relatively calm lap number 1, other than the first 3 corners. I suppose it's single filed out now.
Yeah, it's a tight and very, very short track in the scheme of things, Winton. And it's not surprising to see the field still relatively close, but already we're starting to see a few little moves underway. Matthew Vince has just lost this position to Angus Milne. Just keeping an eye on Alexi Watson, already up 3 spots, but Tristan McLaren going with him, so not getting the distance that Watson will be looking for tonight. The front 3 remaining unchanged at the moment. Ben Roberts still out in front ahead of Ocean Colangelo. Kane Ryder right there to provide support to his teammate. Jackie Chung and Richard Banerjee, the 2 privateers, up there with the best of them, up 2 spots from their start, which is all come about, of course, from the early incident. As we see Thomas Hinz dropping off the back, he's run off track, and I believe might have had an incident with Vaughan Ryder. We might have to go back and take a look at some of those, I think, Ewan, because it's been a bit of an eventful start, but thankfully it all seems to have happened without affecting too much of the field here tonight.
Yeah, that is a good thing, but let's find out what actually happened further down the field, because it is just calming down at the front, although Kane Ryder is under a bit of pressure here for 3rd place, with Chung right behind, and then Banerjee, Millington, Nightingale, Milne, Vince and Byrne all in the top 10. They're not all directly queued up behind him, but they're not far away as they go through turn 1 and 2 again. In the background, Fraser comes in, Thomas Hinz follows. Little will have to come into the pit lane as well. I've already seen Scott Bartine into the pit lane as well. Plenty of meatballs, and it's not a circuit you're likely to hit the wall, so unfortunately I think they are more likely to have hit each other.
Yeah, let's go back and take a look at this one. I believe it was Vaughan Ryder that's come together with Hinz. Or they've just happened to have come off at about the same kind of point. Keep an eye on Hinz in the background. And Vaughan has spun.
Oh no.
Just that bit of netcode there, I think, just bringing them together on the spin. And because of that contact being with the rear axle of Hinz's car, I think that's probably been enough to break some components and send him to the pits.
It's a big shame, because that's not a big bit of contact to send him back to the pit lane, really. Just a small clip on the rear, and he goes around into turn. Which turn was that? It was through turn 7 into 8. That's sort of, I'm not really sure what you call that, but that slower speed section around this circuit that sort of double backs on itself once or twice through 7, 8, and 9. But yeah, that was unfortunate, really. And Hinz is going to lose a lot of ground in the championship. If he was having outside hopes of finishing 3rd, then those will pretty much end with that spin, you'd say, because Kane Ryder is running in 5th place at the moment. The man who's trying to chase down Daniel Byrne is still up ahead, of course, and so is Richard Banerjee, so could even be in danger of losing his 4th place in the championship. There is a penalty. Is that for the... It is for the silver class leader, Chung. Insufficient racing room being left. Now, I've got to say, I don't really have any memory of any incident that could have warranted a 5-second penalty, but maybe this will be the answer.
Yeah, just having a look. Keep an eye on Chung in the background, the 394 car, just at top of the screen here. We'll see if it may be an incident in this opening turn. Ryder was one of the first to have an issue, and there it is. It's actually the contact with Hinz in the background that does it. Ryder's had a completely separate moment, I believe. But yeah, Thomas Hinz running off track there, I believe will be the answer we're looking for. Just that contact from Jackie Chung coming up the inside, looking to make the pass, but just not leaving enough room under the rules here, and yeah, right into the rear left of Thomas Hinz, team's Jinx Shifters entry.
I was sort of expecting to see someone run someone off the road, but I think that probably equally warrants a penalty, to be honest, driving into the side of him through turn one. Pretty aggressive, really, and well, it's aggression that's got him up to 4th place, Chung, but unfortunately he can't do it by crushing everybody out of the way. So unfortunate there. Has got to now stretch a margin over Milne to try and win the silver class effectively. I know it doesn't really matter in terms of points, and of course, especially for Chung, it really doesn't matter because not been at very many rounds so far this season. He's currently running 33rd in the points, having only been at 1 round so far this season. That came the Okayama sprint round, where he did two races, obviously, but 1 round. So that's unfortunate. 10-second time penalty for car 10 for Ben Ryder for bumping to gain an advantage. But there you go. That looked more like what Chung did, unless we've got the incidents mixed up here in terms of what we're seeing. But yeah, 10 seconds for Ben Ryder. That's going to, well, there's less people around him actually, and he's already been delayed, so less of a penalty there for him, but he's already only running down in 18th place anyway.
I do wonder if this might be the one that's being referred to. Just watch for the contact with Bartine just ahead the 909 car. There's the bump. Yep. And look, follows him off track, so definitely penalises himself in a way, but gets up and running and back on track much quicker and gains the position. And so that will be what justifies the penalty for gaining advantage through that bump.
Yeah, it looked like, and surprisingly, although he seemed to bring a lot of gravel back onto the racetrack again, it didn't seem to actually affect anything there, really. It seems to be more sand, really, on the outside of this circuit than it is sort of gravel. But
I'm convinced anyway, it's just dirt here at Winton. Just all dirt.
Yeah, maybe.
Every bit of it. Maybe I'm just a little dirty like about Winton generally, you know?
Maybe, yeah. I would have thought a circuit of this sort of, conditions or atmosphere in terms of the sand on the outside would be in a sort of warmer part of Australia, but I didn't think Victoria would get like this all year round. But maybe they just modelled it in summer.
Look, it is, it's in Benalla, so it's not being rural in Victoria. You get a wide range of temperatures, really, and I'll have to refamiliarise myself with exactly where in Victoria it is. I'm just trying to recall which part of Victoria it sits in, but I have this vague recollection that it's the sort of the inner west, where it is certainly much drier. Now, I could be very, very wrong, and I'm sure someone's about to correct me on it. But
I've got a map.
Oh, look out!
I've got a map.
Look out!
Look out! I've got a map.
I shouldn't have said a
it's
thing.
Quite far. It's quite far north, but slightly east of Melbourne, if you look at, but not near Melbourne, but looking, if you're looking sort of latitude, not which way is it? Sideways. It's slightly east of Melbourne, but very north and quite near the border with the one that's above, whichever one that is. Is that New South Wales? New South Wales,
it would. Jimmy just confirmed for us in the chat that, as Victorian can confirm, Winton is always cold in the northeast. There you go. Okay. So I was wrong. I don't know where I got the west from, but anyhow.
No, it's quite far south in Australia. I know in England we're very much taught that the whole of Australia is constantly warm, but that's just not true. Oh dear, Matthew Vince has got a very bad bit of suspension damage there. I've not seen an F4 actually behave. Wow, he's done that. Oh wow, he's hit the wall very hard there.
That would explain a few things.
He's done that completely himself. Bounced himself straight up into the air, and I'm amazed he's actually been able to accelerate with such vigour there, because that rear left suspension is absolutely finished. Off! Richard Banerjee finds himself a long way off the circuit.
Absolutely the middle of the circuit there. He's got about equal distance to any part of the circuit he chooses to rejoin at this point, and I suspect he'll be sitting for a little while. Not the ideal place for Banerjee to be, and unfortunately it does look like he won't be finishing in that photo finish that we saw last week at Fuji, which was an absolutely wonderful moment in both races to see it come down to the line like that. I don't think we're going to see the same tonight, as Ben Roberts out in front, just cruising at the moment. Colangelo's still in the mix, and Kane Ryder up there as well, but Not expecting that we'll see anyone crossing the line at the same time as Roberts here.
I don't think either way we're going to ever see a closer finish to a race than what we did with Banerjee and Roberts there in race 1, as Vince gets a 5-second penalty for a loss of control. Won't affect him too much, unfortunately. He's already a long way back, although he did come back out on the circuit, which is good news. I guess it points something out that I've not mentioned yet in this at this racetrack. Is the first couple of corners. We've already seen it cause a few problems in the opening lap of the race, but if you bobble over those curves, there's a really nasty bit of sort of almost anti-cut curbing, I want to call it, some almost sausage curbs on the outside line, which can be a bit of a problem on the outside there. And it seems to have bounded Vince up into the air. He hit the wall and then came off the ground again and damaged the rear left, as I said. But those curves, especially for cars like these, don't seem to be too friendly here at Winton. Seem pretty steep, to be honest, in places.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And the ones that you're talking about on the exit of the left side of that first chicane, really, in your tin top racing, they're not a problem, because you just make sure you plant the left-hand wheels right up the middle. There's a gutter that runs up the middle of them. You can actually just let the sausage curbs run under the car and there's no problem. But you get into an open wheeler with the low body and very little clearance, you've got no hope of making it over them no matter which line you take. You have to make sure that you end up on the right-hand side of them. Take a look at it as they come through here. Parks and Donohoe trading positions again. Donohoe's in a dangerous spot. Have a look at how close he cuts it to this curb. Oh, that was right on the line. Another half an inch left, and that car is in the air.
And if that track didn't narrow through turn 3, which it does there, then I think Mitchell Halfway would have gone through with that and maybe gone through with a 3-wide moment down the inside. But the track does indeed narrow, and he loses out. Parks really needs to get past Donohoe, though. He knows he's going to lose points to Alexi Watson and Tristan McLaren in the championship race, in this opening race of the day, it looks like anyway. However, he's got to limit the damage now. He's got to try and make sure he loses as few points as possible, and he needs to do that by... Oh, no! A spin for Donohoe, and he has to lock up to avoid that, Tom Parks. It just seemed to lose all grip there through turn 9, which is a very slow corner, so I'm not sure how he's half spun there, but either way he has, and that does give Parks the 12th position.
Changes in an instant here at Winton, and it's a very easy corner for that to happen on. You've just got to make sure you stay in board. The marbles build up so quickly, and as soon as that traction's gone, then yeah, these wheels are going to lock up. No two ways about it.
Well, that's 2 places given. Lexi Watson gets away with the steward's investigation in the last few moments. That's what you can see there at the top of your screen. So it looks like he is going to gain points on Tristan McLaren, although he's quite close behind. Hayden Millington still very close behind Chung, who's trying to extend the margin over Milne, but he's only got 3 seconds less than, and so it's looking like it's going to be Milne's silver class victory in the first race of the day, if indeed things stay as they are for the moment. We'll just wait and see. But of course, a silver class driver in the F4s, but a gold in the Super Formula Lights. He was running near the lead of the race with about 5 minutes to go on Tuesday, but had to make a late pit stop, so he dropped back. But it looks like no late pit stops here. Well, no pit stops, of course, at all in the sprint race, and it looks like he's going to go on to race victory. Just less than a minute to go, and Benjamin Roberts has got 2.5 seconds to bring home here the first race win of the day.
You see the white flag comes out there, and Roberts sets off on his last lap with Colangelo just a couple of seconds behind. But at a track like Winton, that may as well be 20 seconds. You're not going to close that gap here. There's just not an opportunity to really get these things up to a speed where you can use any sort of aerodynamic advantage. Roberts sliding it through the turn there, wants to make sure he seals this victory up. A question in the chat, and my apologies, my katakana recollection is not good enough to go and actually read that name out. What happened to Vince? A big moment over the sausage curbs out of the chicane, massive rear left impact with the wall, and unfortunately limping it back to the pits.
Down to the 23rd, only Russia Banerjee behind after spearing off the circuit earlier on in the day as well. As the 15 minutes now elapses, the checker flag will be out very soon for Roberts as Donohoe looks to regain those places. He lost in his spin a couple of moments ago. Looks like he's going to run out of time to manage that, unfortunately for him. And so Well, anyway, we'll see later on. But anyway, checkered flag waves as Roberts comes towards the final turn. It is going to be yet another victory for Benjamin Roberts. He crosses the line and takes a step closer to this championship with that victory there ahead of Oisin Colangelo. 2.5 seconds the gap. That is very much the story of the season from Benjamin Roberts, who wins for a ninth time, in this season. It's just been absolute dominance from him, really. And there you go, a ninth victory. Further behind, Watson's going to extend his silver class championship advantage slightly, but Milne is going to be the class winner in silver after a very costly penalty for Chung.
We'll take a moment just for those asking. This is the incident for Matthew Vince. Straight into the wall. You can see that rear left. The full suspension componentry absolutely gone. The drive shaft disconnected. Thankfully, still kept the right-hand side in reasonable condition and managed to get it rolling and get back around to pits. But yeah, no further part to play in the race tonight after that one, and the pit crew are working feverishly to get him ready for race number 2.
I don't know if he's actually from Uruguay, but anyway, that's one of those things I might not find out. But anyway, the final drivers, actually including Vince, that still have to come to the line at the moment, and they just have crossed the line, I think. So we can bring up the race results. Benjamin Roberts wins here at Winton with all 52 points, taking the pole position and the fastest lap points as well, with Oisin Colangelo in second. Kane Ryder rounding out the podium. Jackie Chung will drop down to 8th in the end with that 5-second penalty. Fairly costly as Hayden Millington, Terry Nightingale Jr., Angus Milne and Daniel Byrne all move up. Dan Ackland and Lexi Watson round out the top 10. McLaren and Parks lose out in points in the silver class title fight, with Mitchell Halfway 13th. Dom Donahue and Mark Keppel rounding out the top 15. Head of form rider Dion O'Neill, Ben Ryder, Thomas Hinds and Scott Bartine rounding out the top 20, and then for a bit further down outside the top 20, it's William Fraser, Dylan Little, Matthew Vince and Rishabh Banerjee rounding out the 24 drivers who start this race. Well, an entertaining opener, but that is only the opener of the racing here tonight from Winton. We'll be back in a moment as we get set for a half-an-hour feature race, which could even feature some rain later on in the day. We'll find out in a moment, but for now we'll take a break and go forward into race 2 here from Winton.
If you love the thrill of racing but hate the risks, then buckle up. Everything Simulated is here to merge adrenaline with absolute safety. In a world where technology meets adrenaline, Everything Simulated is revolutionizing driver training with state-of-the-art simulators. From truck training to the thrill of motorsports, our simulators offer the most realistic experiences across all automotive applications. Gone are the days of endless bookwork and basic drills. Now it's all about hands-on, pulse-pounding action that prepares you for the real deal. Whether you're maneuvering a heavy mining vehicle or racing a high-speed car, our simulators, equipped with cutting-edge technology from leaders like Simrigs and Track Racer, bring every nuance of the drive to life. And talk about making a mark. We're not just building simulators, we're fostering talent. From grassroots motorsports to professional series like the Aussie Outlaw GT3, sponsored by us, Everything Simulated is fueling dreams and careers. Ready to feel the excitement of the racetrack under your fingertips? Connect with us, and let's build your next simulator adventure together. Remember, we support those who support us. Join the Everything Simulated family, and let's race towards the future.
Welcome back to Winton for the penultimate round of the Super Formula Lights, the F1 Simulated F4 Championship, I should say, here at Winton in the Formula Drivers League. Also supported by Play One SimGib, Capstone Marketing and Print Racer, and thanks to the sponsors for, of course, making this series what it is. We're just a couple of minutes away from the second qualifying session of the day, and Matt Vince tells us that, informs us that he's not from Uruguay. So there you go. He's got that flag next to his name just for a giggle. It sounds like. I don't know what the story is there, but anyway, that's the important stuff out of the way. It's myself, Ian O'Leary, and Jared Cole with you tonight for this round of the championship, closing in very much so on the end of this season, where Ben Roberts has extended the margin by another 8 points over OC Colangelo to 83 after that last race. If Colangelo finishes, though, in the top 3 in the next race, then it should be enough to hold on to Roberts and have the chance of overtaking him in the final race of the season next week. That's what it looks like on the way in tonight. Roberts leading by 75 points over Colangelo, and he's looking ever more secure, but unless Colangelo has a disaster in the feature race, then it's unlikely to be sealed tonight.
Yeah, it does seem pretty unlikely. That said, I mean, disasters could be the name of the game tonight. I'll be interested to see if anyone out there in the chat has a bit of a connection to just ask Rishad Banerjee what happened there in race number 1. Ended up well off into the center of the track, and I didn't see any real damage or contact to cause that. But I do wonder if perhaps there was a bit of a hardware failure, because I would have expected him to get going again. Actually ended up towing to the pits, so he is back on track now, which is good news. Just makes me wonder what exactly happened there in race 1. Really unfortunate for Banerjee.
Yeah, certainly. It's a bit of a puzzler, that one, but there you go. We'll try and find out what went on there as the wet tyres come out for Ben Roberts. Actually, not sure what he's doing, whether that's even true, because he's done a. Oh, well, they've probably put them back on, actually, after setting lap times earlier in the practice session, which is about to end at the moment. But, just to remind you, rain a possibility later on in the second half of the feature race. The forecast has the rain at 0% at the start of the race, begins to climb just about 10 minutes into the race, reaching 12% by halfway, going over 50 with just less than 10 minutes to go, just after the pit stop window, and then getting very, very likely towards the end. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the drivers do here. I think there's going to be a case of looking at the forecast pre-race, and if they can see how heavy the rain is, I think they could decide there and then whether they even need to use wet tyres, because I think by the time it starts raining, it could be very late in the race, if it ever arrives at all, and the wet tyres might be a bit of a risk.
Yeah, and this is one of the great things about races like this. There's a real strategy to decide on. You know, the drivers really will only need probably the one stop. Well, I mean, they won't need 2 stops tonight, barring any, damage or similar. They might be able to get away with no stops if there's a little bit of rain and a bit of a safety car as well. The question will be whether that rain is enough that they need to switch to wet, or if they can get away with slicks and actually staying out to the end. That will potentially make a pretty significant difference.
I'll tell you, I would be in the camp of staying out and trying to go without the wet tyres, to be honest with you, because that rain looks like, to me, it's going to arrive very late. Slightly scarred maybe from the Super Formula Lights at Road America earlier this season, where the rain was on 99% chance for a long time, but it never arrived. So it's everyone in that race is also going to be a little bit puzzled, I would imagine, or a little bit scarred by that experience. But if it does, great, right up until it's sort of 100% or so, it'll be in the last 5 minutes. With 5 minutes to go, the rain chance is still at about 80%, 90%. Now, that is way more likely than not, admittedly. However, there's a chance that it won't arrive, and so it won't be heavy enough as well, because you've got to remember it's going to arrive so late. Even as I say, the first chances start to arrive with 20 minutes to go. And again, if there's a forecast at the beginning on the radar, if the radar is saying it's going to be quite light rain, and you can see that before the race, as I say, I would be not pitting at all, because you'd be very surprised how far you can go on dry tyres in slightly wet conditions on iRacing. It's a recurring thing, and so you've got to take advantage of that, I think.
Absolutely, and if I recall correctly, it was Okayama, wasn't it, earlier this season, where we saw a very similar set of circumstances, just a very light shower coming across the track in about the last 10 minutes. It did start to get a bit heavier, and a couple of drivers did opt for a swap to wets, but it really never was quite enough to make a difference, and the drivers that benefited the most were those that pressed on with the dry tyres and stuck it out to the end.
I say I really remember that at all.
Yeah, look, it does get that way a little bit. The only reason I remember it so well, Ewan, is that I was absolutely dead set sure that these drivers are going to need to switch to wets, and your greater experience with open wheelers, you were quite confident that they wouldn't need to, and I learned a little something that night, so perhaps that's why it's burned in my brain.
Maybe. I don't remember. I don't see that, well, maybe the rain has changed, but, the most common thing that I've picked up from the rain so far is that you don't need to switch on to wets as early as you think you do. So that would be my only word of advice to the drivers if they want it. But Richard Banerjee does not set that time. A couple of purple sectors in there, but
and off
doesn't
track in there
count.
somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Alexei Watson goes up to 4th place with Chung just ahead. So see whether Watson can actually challenge Chung in this race, although Chung didn't win the race either, I suppose. Milne did in race number 1, but that zero-class battle, very interesting if Watson is indeed to miss next week's race, which would be very disappointing, and it would make the maths a little bit easier. But it looks like he needs to, well, he definitely needs to be ahead of McLaren and Todd Parks at the end of today to have a chance of holding on to that championship margin when he's not there next week.
Yeah, it's look, you've got to start thinking about what your plan is. Really, you're not going to pick up a huge stack of points with some of the quality field that you've got here. And so, I suppose on the one hand, Watson will feel a little reassured, perhaps that it's unlikely that Tristan McLaren will pick up a whole bunch of points next week either, but he'll want that gap to be as big as it possibly can be, and it certainly hasn't moved much after race 1. Race 2, obviously a few more points on offer for each place. Maybe this will be the one that gets just enough gap. I'm really looking forward to seeing where they finish up next week if Watson doesn't make it, and just how tight the race ends up being for that top position in Silverglass.
Yeah, it will probably be down to Tristan McLaren, to be honest, if that's the situation. As we approach halfway in this session, Roberts still leading the way ahead of Colangelo and Ryder, although they're within 2/10 of him. I just don't know how the other two can actually beat Ben Roberts in this race, to be honest with you. They've got to get ahead of him somehow and do something as Vince goes off the road at the penultimate corner there, spearing off the circuit into the sand, and we'll get back on a little bit further down, but yeah, you've got to get the track position away from Roberts, I think, because in a straight fight, he is just quicker than the rest of the field.
Yeah, absolutely is. Just carries that little bit of extra speed through every turn and doesn't necessarily pick up a huge amount of time over Colangelo or Ryder when they're in a head-to-head battle. But it's not the seconds and it's not the tenths that makes a difference over the course of a race. It is indeed, of course, the hundredths and thousandths of a second that he just chips away at. Milne just picking up our slowdown flag. So for those who haven't seen one of the most recent broadcasts, you'll see that little yellow flag next to the timing tower. That is the iRacing slowdown being issued. It's a slightly rarer occurrence here at a track like Winton, where you do have to pretty aggressively cut a corner for that one to be pulled out on you. I can tell you from experience earlier this week, Misano is a yellow flag it's a festival for our timing tower. I lost count as we got into the dozens of slowdowns handed out around that track.
I can imagine. There's a lot of tarmac to use there on the outsides of that circuit to use to your advantage as well. I can absolutely imagine that at Misano. Although I'm not sure I've seen a race on iRacing yet at Misano. I don't know if it's been picked up very much by lots of the officials or lots of the series, certainly, but I don't watch many officials. But yeah, it's not circuit I've seen much of.
Underutilised, I think. I've not seen it. That was the first race that I've covered at Misano. Although they do have another one coming up in the next season for our Monday night coverage. But yeah, it's a track that, having watched some racing there, I think it is absolutely a bit of a sleeping giant of a track. Very, very technical and certainly a tricky track. It's definitely suited to MotoGP, but I'd be really interested, and indeed I might actually jump in the cockpit after this one and put an F4 around it, because I'd be curious to see what an open wheel is like getting around Misano. Certainly much better than Winton.
Probably better, to be honest, than some of the GT races I've seen around that circuit, to be honest. I do find it a little bit difficult on the overtaking side, really, to watch, but yeah, anyway, that's a different circuit altogether. As Tom Donahue starts a new lap, bobbles over the curb at turn 1 a little bit fiercely there, doesn't get too far out wide into those anti-cut curves on the outside, which really aren't necessary with a wall, but anyway. And this is one of those drivers who had a foul of those through turn 2. Good speed, though, in this qualifying session from Vince. His line definitely lends itself to going closer to that second wall there, and he pulls away from it just before he goes towards it there as well. But 7th place for Vince at the moment, after moving up. Now Tristan McLaren, can he get ahead of Alexi Watson with a very minute improvement? He can, and it's going to be close, but no. He's only, though, 17 thousandths of a second behind Watson, who is just surprisingly a long way down in 13th at the moment.
Yeah, the silver class tonight really being shown how to drive Winton by Chung and Milne, sitting in 10th and 11th at the moment. Both just racking up just really decent laps time and time again. It's it's a bit of a different story to what we're used to seeing from the silver class. That was very close from Milne to going up and over those sausage curbs. I did notice that Vince took a significantly tighter exit from that chicane, and I wonder if that's going to be a feature of the race tonight, just giving himself a little bit more room there on the outside, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. There's a new Burton. It looks to me like he's setting up for a final lap, to be honest, but no, he's going properly over the line, and that will be a little bit slower than what he's managed before. 17.5. As Terry Nightingale Jr. finally gets onto the ball. That took a while in 999, but up to 8th place. Still waiting for William Fraser, by the way, to get a lap in. He's on his 7th lap, and there's quite a lot of off-tracks to be getting, to be honest, before setting a lap time, but Fraser still hasn't quite managed it.
Well, you know what they do say on iRacing discussions, forums, on the subreddit, everywhere really, about Red Bull liveries. Maybe that's the answer here for Fraser. Just a change in livery might be all it takes.
Very true. Oh dear, maybe it does. He's just goes a little bit wide through turn 10 there, and has to lock it down to avoid a big spin. As Dan Ackland comes towards the line right now as well. 10th place. He won't be moving from there either. But Roberts is back in pit lane. He knows the job is done. Ocean Colangelo is out there getting a slipstream from Team Max Boost teammate Kane Ryder. Not sure that's going to be a huge advantage here at Winton, but they're giving it a go anyway. Will it give it 0.2 of a second to pass Roberts? I highly doubt it around this circuit.
As always, though, we see the formation driving, although not as tight here at Winton as what we've seen at other tracks. But Team Max Boost getting it lined up. Kane Ryder setting a purple sector and slingshots around. Don't know it's going to do much as they head on into the pits. So clearly not seeing much benefit in finishing off that lap as they make their way in. Thomas Hinz coming to a stop as well, as has Matthew Vince. Jackie Chung just coming on down. I don't think we'll get another full lap in here, as Mark Heppel rounds the corner as he heads into pits as well. I think that'll be qualifying just about done. Always a little hard to tell, though, of course, what iRacing is going to do here as to exactly when it decides to actually finish the session off.
Always, yeah, a bit confusing, but that will be the end of the session now. And if you're not improving on your final lap, then you might as well go into the pit lane and practice this pit entry, because it is a race where you'll need to make a pit stop. And it's an unusual pit entry through here, a very, very sharp hairpin indeed around that pit entry corner. Chicane after that's taken on without with the pit limiter on, so that's fine. And this racetrack, of course, puts you right back onto the apex of turn number 1, so that does favour the overcut a little bit, going a little bit further and trying to get out ahead, because you can immediately put that block on down the inside. But it's the same front three as before, with Roberts, Colangelo and Ryder. in the second race. Vrisha Banerjee starts fourth, and Thomas Innes and Hayden Millington. Tony Nightingale Jr. starts alongside Matthew Vince, with Daniel Byrne and Ackland rounding out the top 10. 11th for Vaughan Ryder, ahead of Jackie Chung, who takes the pole in silver again, although he's down quite a few positions this time. Angus Milne 13th, but Tom Donoghue, Mark Heppel, just splitting up the silver class drivers of Todd Parks, Alexi Watson, Tristan McLaren, Ben Ryder. Watson behind Parks, notably. Dylan Liddell rounds out the top 20, with Scott Bartine, the first driver, over a second off the pole. Mitchell halfway next. William Fraser did eventually get a lap in, but it was 5 seconds slower than the rest. And Dion O'Neill didn't set a lap time there. He started race 1 from pit lane as well, so I wonder whether he'll do the same in race 2 as well, or whether he'll just start from the back, because there's no difference really between starting at the back on the racetrack and starting from the pit lane not on the racetrack. But we'll see what he decides to do as we gear up for half an hour here. And the talk, I think, is going to be all about the weather and just what's going to happen here, whether it's going to rain or not.
Yeah, and look, it will be a tricky one to predict. We'll keep an eye on it here, of course, in the booth for you folks. At the moment, it is looking very, very likely in about 15 minutes. We've got a 100% chance, so we'll keep a close eye on the radar and just keep bringing that to you as and when it looks like getting a little bit closer as we head on down to the track and get ready to get underway. And you can see the cloud just starting to build a little in the background. The wind's certainly picked up, the trees moving around now, and that will bring that rain in very, very quickly.
Yeah, it certainly will, as the drivers in the background get themselves onto the circuit. Scott Bartine deciding not to take the start from the racetrack as the lights go on here from Winton. So half an hour of racing in race number 2, and we are underway again. And decent start from Colangelo again. Oh, and 4 wide in the background. Goodness me, look at that. Ackland, I think, making up places in the midfield as Colangelo goes round the outside of the first part to get the inside at turn 2. Is this the first chance that Roberts is going to have to be pushed down the field here by Colangelo? Down the inside at 3. She'll still have the inside by 4. Is there going to be a change for the lead? And there will. O.C. Colangelo gets ahead of Benjamin Roberts, with Vrisha Banerjee also maybe getting alongside by the long left-hander. Let's see as they pop into shot. No, he just backs out of it, with Colangelo leading the field around.
Yeah, I thought Banerjee was going to follow through there, but had to get the move done just a little bit sooner than that to make it sticky. And see Milton Parks still going side by side as they try to sort out this running order, and a long way down the back for Dion O'Neill starting from the pits. As, very, very wide there was that Alexi Watson has dropped a long way back through the field, now down into 19th, only a couple spots back, and regaining very quickly alongside Mitchell Hathaway in the background. But the big story up front is Ocean Colangelo getting a fantastic start, a great line through that first chicane, and now leads the race as we come around to finish lap 1.
Yep, onto the front straight again, and this is all very close over at the start finish line, closer I'd say than last race actually. Side by side between Vince and Chung again. What a great start from Chung as he looks around the outside here. Oh, inside at 2. Whoa, you don't want to do that really. Bobbles over the curbs, and Daniel Byrne's going to punish him for that. Down the inside, and well, it's close. Still on the outside line, and no, Byrne can't get through. So Chung holds on, but that was a real stick in your nose where he really shouldn't, through turn 2 there, bobbling over the curb. Surprised he didn't get a slowdown for that, to be honest.
And ran very, very close to having the nose cut completely off, as we see now Nightingale looking for the move up the inside of Byrne. Now finds on the outside as well, so he's going to have to go the long way around that tree sitting in the middle of Winton circuit here. It still amazes me that they haven't removed that from the circuit. It seems like a fairly dangerous item to have sitting out there, but everyone seems to get around it okay. Chung, though, really just displaying some pace here. I wonder if Winton is a bit of a favourite track. Take a look at this up front, though. Colangelo still fighting desperately to hold Roberts off. Roberts right on the tail, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Roberts immediately into strategy mode and just enjoying the draft and just saving a little bit of fuel here to just try and get an extra lap out of this car by the time 30 minutes is up.
Yeah, short pit stop definitely he'll be trying to get in a moment, unless he can get through. Looks down the inside at turn 3. It's the original pit straight, but can't get past, and you notice the group is bigger with Colangelo leading it rather than what Roberts had behind him. In the early laps, Roberts did bring Colangelo and Kane Ryder along with him. Eventually they were struck off the back, but now he's going for it. Looks down the inside of Colangelo before this section. I'll get through, and has got to be careful because Banerjee is not too far behind, and this is the danger when Colangelo's leading the group for Roberts, is that when you're trying to make moves, there's a driver right behind you still trying to get past you, and that's going to be a problem for Roberts if he's going to continue to try and make this move. I would say he should probably do what you were suggesting earlier and save fuel for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's a good time to be doing it. If you can get it done now, it means you can take your mind off it towards the end of this race. And Roberts, look, in the ideal position, sure, he's going to come under attack from Banerjee on a fairly regular basis around Winton, I'm sure, but it is a difficult track to pass on if you can't get up alongside. And with the slipstream from Colangelo, as long as Roberts just keeps an eye on his car positioning and doesn't open any very, very inviting doors for Banerjee, then he should be well set, although he does take another look up the inside. He's just trying to throw Colangelo off there. Ocean doing a great job of staying true to the racing line and not being put off or just, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just being guilted into wanting to cover that inside line, I suppose? Baited, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit. And again there. But I actually don't think that is bad for Colangelo at all. I think the more drivers in this field who could overtake Roberts, the better, really. I mean, we'll wait and see just how far Roberts could fall down the field. I mean, he would have to finish outside the top 8, I think, to have this as his drop round. I think, yeah, that is true. So it would have to be fairly significant, and in that situation, Colangelo would be able to gain about 40 points. To put her right in the conversation going into the final round of the season. So, you know, yes, she is being baited into defending somewhat, but I actually don't think that's a bad thing at all, and I would be over-egging the defence that I'm having to do here if I was Colangelo, because she's got to get other drivers to finish ahead of Roberts as they side by side behind Millington and Hinds. This will create a big break in the group ahead of Millington as the front four get away because he's defending very hard, and Hinds can't get through, follows him directly into turn 3. That allows those front four to get away.
It certainly does, and watch Ackland behind taking full advantage of this without having to get caught up in it too much. Millington on the absolute defensive through here, and you can see Hinds already just exploring the edges of the track, looking for a weakness in the defence of Millington. It's not going to happen here, but needs to stay very, very close behind to have any sort of a shot at it as they come back around to the pit straight.
Absolutely. Again, I think Colangelo would prefer those three still in the group, to be honest, but can't control what they're doing behind. And this is Heppel versus Hathaway in for 17th place. Heppel, a gold-class driver, looking to slip through here and move up a place, and so he does. Just ahead then is Tom Parks, and this is putting extra positions between Watson, McLaren and Parks. This is not a good start to the race for Alexi Watson at all. There's one place and maybe two, as Halfway might be able to be overtaken as well. Heppel is off the circuit down at the penultimate corner.
Yeah, just overcooked it a little bit, and enough to get the rear end swinging around and find himself off into the dust and the dirt. Thomas Hinds having another look as Millington defends once again. There's a couple of these little battles going on right throughout the field. Colangelo's under attack up front, Millington under attack from Hinds. Keep an eye Jackie Chung as well, and Matthew Vince. We've got a few to try and keep our eye on here. Alexi Watson further back, desperately trying to get through the traffic and start to catch up to Tristan McLaren, stuck behind Hathaway at the moment. There's not a lot in it, but it does look like, as we say that, Hinds has gotten through on Millington.
He has. I'd imagine that was on the brakes into turn 7, if I were to guess. And very nearly Ackland followed through actually on Millington. See how it happened. That's turn 6, the long well, not turn 6, turn 5, and then turn 6, and it's a mistake. It was turn 7, but it was a mistake. Big lock-up from Millington, and Ackland did get very long way alongside, but he couldn't quite punish Millington for that mistake 2 times over. and so stays where he is. Roberts, meantime, goes to the inside at turn 1. Now, this is where he lost the lead from, the inside at turn 1 before, so Colanzo's just going to say, well, thanks very much, I'll go round the outside and keep my place, and that's going to allow Banerjee through, is it? Here we go. Oh no, he's defending from Ryder, actually. Banerjee there, I thought was going to try and pull alongside Roberts, but had to make a defence of his own. Came Ryder's down the inside of Banerjee, and there's contact! Oh, he's put his nose down the inside there where he should have done, and they're both off the circuit. It allows the front two to get away. It doesn't help his teammate there, Came Ryder. It doesn't help himself. He may well be under investigation for that.
Oh, as we see him spin, comes back on with dirty tyres, can't get the grip, and ends up off the track. And although probably not intending to redress there, may end up doing it by the time he gets going again, because Banerjee is not far behind.
Yep, well, I think Banerjee is maybe damaged, and maybe Came Ryder is as well. I think they'll both be in the pit lane in a moment, to be honest, and again, that does not help Colangelo. As I said earlier, they really need to get Roberts further down the field, and the first way you can do that, of course, is getting other Team Max Boost cars ahead. You can't, of course, control too much of the other teams and the other drivers, but you can control your own team, and now they're nowhere near Colangelo to try and help take points off Roberts.
Yeah, very, very much isolated now. Colangelo's going to have to do this all herself if she wants to hold Roberts off. And with 20 minutes to go, that is a big ask. Colangelo's certainly up to the task. Just needs to keep her head on straight, just keep focused, and not spend too much time watching the mirrors. She knows exactly where Roberts is going to have the pace over her. They've been racing here for almost 10 minutes of this 30 now, so she should have a pretty good idea at this point of exactly where she needs to get it done and where she might be able to start to open the gap up a little to give herself a moment of breathing room.
Well, this is looking difficult. I was just looking through some championship points implications, by the way. If Roberts were to win both races here, the gap would already be 83, extend to about 95 later. Then they'd be sort of banking on the fact that there needs to be about 30 drivers at Suzuka for Roberts to be able to even lose the amount of points required. So Colanzo has to win this race, I think. Even if it's mathematically not over, Roberts would almost seal it. But look how close he is. He's either going to save a lot of fuel or make the pass pretty soon, because this looks quicker at the moment as he now goes to the outside through turn 1, breaks early, and Colanzo goes in pretty deep.
Does a great job of closing the door on the exit there of the chicane, though, not giving Roberts the opportunity to follow that line all the way through, and keeps him staring at the back of that Team Max Boost F4. Really, really nice positioning at the moment from Colangelo. Needs to maintain it, needs to keep the head on straight.
A pit stop for Chung, first scheduled pit stop of the day, and that's dry tyres still going on there, so I think Chung might have made the right call here. Hitting from a big bit of traffic from 6th place on backwards, this group, well, has decided I'm going to keep the dries on for the rest of this race. If you look at the radar at the start, either you see the radar at the start of the race and see that the rain won't be that heavy, or you see it and it's just not arrived yet. I was told in the past that the very outer reaches of that grey box is 15 minutes away, which I'm not even sure is quite true, but if that is true, then that means the rain's only going to arrive really at the end and really have no effect on this race.
Well, the big sign is generally the wind speed. It may be 15 minutes away in certain light breezes, but we've got a decent breeze on at the moment. Like, I don't think I've seen the trees moving quite this much in a while. I'll have to just check if we can get a bit of a weather readout, which we can. The wind at the moment 51 kilometres an hour. So really, really significant stiff breeze out there, which can move those clouds in very, very quickly if it happens to be pushing from the right direction to bring them in. iRacing actually does a very good job of modelling the impact of that wind on the rain's arrival.
It's very windy. I'm not sure I've seen it windy in the past, to be honest with you. 51 kilometres an hour. Oh, off in front for Ben Ryder, in front of Little there, who can't punish him for that error. I mean, when you're running the sand, it's not much of a punishment, really. It's pretty easy to run through the sand there without too many real issues. So anyway, gets away with that rather. As we approach half distance, some penalties finally going to come through here now. That's the first penalty. Okay, now which of the riders would that be? Number 18.
That would be Kane Rider.
It's Kane Rider, yeah. Typical that I can't find any of them when I'm looking for them, but anyway, whatever. Kane Rider, 5 seconds time penalty, which will not drop him down too much, but if he wants to make up any places up ahead, then it will. Very close for Roberts this time. Maybe a look down the inside 3 as Ben Ryder's off this time. Just in front of Kane Rider. We saw the back with Little earlier, and now he's properly off. Heppel's going to try and take 2 in 1. Little try and take 2 in 1, and he does. Well, at least keeps the 13th place ahead of Kane Rider, who just got that penalty.
Yeah, just overcooked it a little bit there. Did Ben Ryder. Lucky to keep it out of the wall, because once you get off the tarmac there, you do tend to slide quite a long way, and not much hope of pulling up these cars running sideways. Not even much hope of pulling them up if you're running front onto the wall. Honestly, they just do not grip once you get off road. So a little bit of good fortune there for Ben Ryder being able to keep the car moving and keep on going with this race.
Well, just over half of it remaining, and this is the biggest group on the circuit from 6th place on backwards. Vince leading the group after dropping back late on in race 1, of course. Nightingale next, and Ryder, Donoghue, Milne, Parks. Todd Parks being a part of this group is very good news for him. Higher up the field he can get, the more points he can gain, of course, as again another look from Roberts. Must have saved so much fuel in behind Colangelo, and well, he's seemingly given up on, oh well, I'll say that, I was about to say given up on trying to make the move, but maybe not quite. Looks down the inside at turn 3 again. That was a bit half-hearted, really.
I do wonder if he's just really trying to unsettle Ocean at the moment. She's driving really consistently. I've noticed that through a number of these turns. Roberts is poking the nose up the inside. Colangelo is not even thinking about responding, but here it goes. Roberts gets the move done. Deeper under brakes, has the overlap, but can Colangelo respond on the left-hander? She's going to have to really push, and will end up on the outside for this hairpin. I don't think it's going to be enough unless she can get the over-under done. She's going to have to slot in behind Roberts, and there's the change of lead.
Well, she's got a better exit though out of turn 9, so this might go on for some time. Got to keep the overlap here. It brakes very late. Wow, I think maybe it was expecting to go for the undercut, but no, went right round the outside. There might have been a bit of wheel banging there between the 2 title rivals who know how important this is. Roberts on the outside. Is he going to duck in pit lane to just avoid this? No, they're going to continue this battle through the final turn. A great fight between the championship rivals, and they just about keep it out of each other. Now then in towards turn number 1. Colangelo's almost at that awkward distance where she's too close to get back in the slipstream again into turn 1. This is where she's made so many moves so far today, but on the outside of turn 1 finally doesn't come up for her, and Roberts leads the race. And Thomas Hinsel gained as a result of this as well, by the way, but after nearly a whole lap, Roberts gets through, and Colangelo needs to respond quickly.
Yeah, I think Colangelo's done herself no favours there, just didn't stay committed through the chicane, really needed to, and just trust that she was going to be able to pull in behind Roberts. Instead, she ran a little wide. Obviously wanted to give herself some room, as we see a lock up there momentarily from Roberts, I think it was. She needs to stay committed though to really retain the slipstream. Just gave herself a bit too much room, and now we'll have a little bit of work to pull back those tenths as we see Vaughan Ryder drop to the back of this pack after a big lock up on that same turn.
What is going on back here? It's very busy all of a sudden. I said this is the biggest group in the field, but they were all changing positions all at once there. Vaughan Ryder going backwards. Nightingale getting past Vince. Well, they are teammates, I think. They're based on the liveries, so that's maybe not too much of a surprise. Donoghue and Milne, who are definitely teammates as well, in 8th and 9th, and that's the Toba class leader again, is Angus Milne, as he now comes through the final couple of corners and into the pit lane for Vince. I really think these guys are doing away with the rain now. 13 minutes to go, and it's not arriving, so let's just take this race as a dry race, even if it is clouding overhead now.
Yeah, and certainly not looking like it's going to arrive. It could be simply that the wind is holding it off a bit. Again, it all depends on direction. You can see the flags flying rather frantically. It's just it is a shame that there's no way for us to tell with perhaps a slightly wider radar view as to where the rain actually is. It's somewhere nearby, and the forecast still showing 100% chance of rain, but I tend to agree. I don't think it's going to get there in time. Kane Ryder back in 21st sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:17.36.
Oh, where's that come from? Oh dear, Matthew Vince has put on the wet tyres. What is he doing? Oh dear.
Risk it for the biscuit, I guess. Hoping the rain starts to pour down in a couple of minutes' time. That's a very interesting choice.
There's risking it for a biscuit, and then there's shooting yourself in various body parts, and that's what he's just done, I'm afraid. He's pitted way too early for wets there, unfortunately. That's way too early. Donahue is still in behind Nightingale, and in towards turn number 1. He's going to get close. There's Fraser, spins out of the turn. That will help Tristan McLaren move up an extra place. He has made his pit stop as well, of course, but has not put on the wet tyres. Kane Ryder gets past Matthew Vince very easily, and McLaren will do the same pretty quickly because there's no rain on the radar still. So yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing wet tyres from any of the top contenders, that's for sure.
No, and Matthew Vince is heading back into the pits. I wonder if that's if we're about to see a change back to the dries. I suspect we will. Maybe the wet tyres was an oversight from the start line that he'd forgotten to correct before coming into the pits.
I was going to say, yeah, an error maybe that he's got to correct now. Maybe he didn't even mean to put on the wet tyres there.
Wouldn't be the first time we've seen it happen, and sure enough, he's back on the dries.
Exactly, yeah. So I think he selected the wets on the start line just to say, well, I don't need to fiddle with this throughout, so when the rain arrives, I will pit on for wet tyres. Forgot that he'd done that, and yeah, has replaced his dry tyres with wet tyres. So yeah, that's not a mistake in tactics. I think a mistake in admin, as it were. And he's put the dries back on now as Parks, Ryder and Watson come in. That's a very important pit stop, by the way, as far as the Silver Class Championship goes. So 2 of the 3 contenders in on the same lap, as a lot of the drivers coming in now as we get towards the end of this field run.
Yeah, just will be interesting to see just where Tristan McLaren ends up. Of course, pitting on lap 9. Keep your eye on Alexi Watson. On the way out of the pits now, Watson will be looking for as much distance as possible between himself and McLaren. You see McLaren just coming down the home straight now, so Watson will retain 4 positions between himself as... Oh no, McLaren's gotten past Banerjee. So that's 1 extra place clawed back. Can McLaren get past Heppel now, who's also just come out on fresh, cold tyres? If you can, that'll certainly help in setting up for next week's round. But at the moment, Alexi Watson holding a 4-position advantage over Tristan McLaren, which is fantastic news for his Silver Class title. Roberts in, Colangelo in, Hinds, Millington and Ackland all coming in at the front end of the field.
That's what we were told the limit was, 16 laps, but Donahue's been able to get... Donahue, who gives us the notes, has been fooling us because he can go 17 laps. I guess he's just been fuel saving the whole time because he has been in that big group, so that's where he's got this extra lap from, but he's going to be well over, a very long way anyway, back from making it on fuel. And the second gap now opens up between the 2 leaders. Roberts ahead of Colangelo by 1.1. Not that she was very threatening at making an overtake anyway. It looks like Benjamin Roberts is going to go on to win a 10th race this season.
Hard to believe, isn't it? The absolute dominance throughout this season. That's not to say Colangelo hasn't been right there and challenging in quite a number of those races. It's not been, a complete walk in the park for Roberts every single week. But if you look back at the race stats, it certainly looked that way.
Oh goodness me, it's been a season like you very rarely see. Roberts has completely dominated, really. As Parks gets to the back of Milne, looks like Chung might well get his race win in silver after all, but Parks, more importantly for him, is trying to end points on Watson here after losing a few in the first race of the day. Worth remembering though that Parks starts the day a lot further behind Watson than Tristan McLaren does, 62 points behind, and so he really does need to gain unless he's going to be finishing towards the front of the last race of the season. Would need to be in the top 4 or 5 really to overall, that is, to really overtake Watson at the final race. McLaren has got to get up from this position as well. He's 5 positions behind at the moment, and his margin is a lot more reachable up to Watson if Watson doesn't turn up. But he's got to get there, and he's got to overtake a couple of these guys up in front to reduce the damage tonight.
You see another little pack starting to form up here behind Dunho. Milne and Parks have caught and now battling it out for 8th. Tom Dunho just out of the pits. So we'll have nice fresh tyres, all the fuel we'll need to get to the end. I don't expect to make a huge difference, to be fair, in terms of tyre wear. There's not a lot of degradation over this length of a race distance, but can't hurt. And that's a big moment there for Chung.
Chung on the lead in silver. He basically gave him the race win, and that's maybe why he spun. But through turn 7, just on the power, it looks like. The bobbles over the curve, yes, but shouldn't be a problem. At lock up in front, maybe just slows down a little bit more compared to what he normally does, and he spins from the silver class lead.
Take a look and see what's happened to Matthew Vince as well, because I've just seen that notification coming through. I don't know that there's have a look and see what we can pick up here.
Let's find out. Oh yeah, this is him on wet tyres a moment ago. You can see the treads from here as he made that error earlier on. Nobody else is on wets, but you'll be pleased to know nobody else is making that. And that's him.
Fraser.
Yeah, slipping past Fraser there through turn 9. So yeah, this is the difference. Look at that. That's one of the riders going through. But anyway, Tom Donahue just in front of Angus Milne, then Tom Parks. So Donahue's going to give the slipstream to Milne here in his defence from Parks, but Parks absolutely needs this extra position, needs any position he can get really to finish ahead of Watson, or gain points on Watson, I should say, at the end of the day.
We'll just take a quick look at this one, because the incident for Terry Nightingale. No, just a pit entry there. So no incident in it. One of the joys of Winton, they have to slow down so much for that corner in the pits that our telemetry goes, oh, hang on, they must be crashing. No such story, which is good news, of course, for the drivers. It does make it a little hard for us to differentiate, of course, between people who are crashing and people who are just coming into the pits.
Yeah, which is always a minefield for us, as we know. But anyway, just less than 5 minutes to go now, and it looks like Roberts is cruising to another overall victory, but we've no idea who's going to win the silver class. Going to be Milne or Parks, you'd imagine, but who is it going to be? The advantage of having a teammate here for Milne seems to be massive, though. That little bit of slipstream there that definitely is going to follow him anywhere that he goes on the start-finish straight is a huge advantage. But that doesn't mean, especially at Winton, where the slipstream is not overly important, doesn't mean that Parks can't find his way past.
Absolutely spot on. So Donoho and Milne need to work together here to make that very, very difficult indeed. Need to keep your eyes up front, though, because all of a sudden, Hins, it's my fault, Thomas, I'm sure. I was just jumping forward because he's been closing in on Colangelo at quite a rate. And no sooner do we jump to check on this one as he's locked the brakes up and run it wide. And now with only 3.5 minutes left to run here in race number 2, I suspect that Hins is going to have to be happy with a third place finish.
Yeah, certainly. That's a shame because, as you say, it was certainly closing in. As this group again runs through turns 1 and 2. Watson in a bit of a precarious position in the background, by the way, between two Max Boost drivers, both Vaughan and Kane Ryder, who are either side of him at the moment, and haven't really got any skin in the game as far as the Silver Class Championship is concerned, but they'll just race Watson as hard as possible, you would imagine, to get some more points for the team. And a team, of course, who have won the team's championship, being Max Boost to by far and away the rest of the teams, leading the way by a long way as Kane Ryder does get through on that winning team. He gets past Watson, who will lose out on a few points there.
He will. We're just getting news through in the chat. Vince's team radio got hit by Terry, forcing him into boxing early, and that's when he forgot to switch from the wets. We didn't see anything recorded, but this could be the moment. Keep your eye on Terry Nightingale Jr. behind Matthew Vince here. Is about to pass. Is there contact? There it is. Big nudge.
Yep.
The
They're teammates, by the way.
together. Yeah, look, it happens. Not ideal, but it does happen.
It does, but that looked almost sort of not unintentional, really. But anyway, they'll have a very big discussion later on, I would imagine. Parks gets close to Milne again, and won't get through. So these guys are just parked up behind Donoghue, who again will be helping Milne inadvertently, and if he needs to do it by thinking about it, then he will as well. But is very close in with Milne and Parks at the moment. When they get to the line, by the way, it will be 1 lap to go, because Benjamin Roberts is about to receive the white flag in about 20 seconds' time.
Rishabh Banerjee's been sitting in behind Heppel for a little while, can't quite seem to find the way past, but threatening to pick up another position. Chris McLaren not looking like having a great deal of hope of improving from 17th with these two battling in front.
There is the white flag. Roberts, 1 minute and 1 lap to go here from Winton as he gets closer to a championship, leaving Colangelo hoping that enough drivers attend the final race at Suzuka so that Roberts can lose the necessary amount of points that it would be, because at the moment he's taking all 2 bonus points as well, all 4 for the night, which is pretty significant. Inside for Banerjee. Oh no! Heppel there was hit there by Banerjee, and that allows Tristan McLaren to gain 2 places, but that might be a penalty for Banerjee later on.
We just switched away to miss that one because Donoghue, Milne and Parks getting very, very close together across the line there. Let's go back and take a look and see what's happened for McLaren and Banerjee.
Yep, let's see. McLaren's just going to watch ahead as Banerjee looks to make a late dive down the inside, the final turn, and Heppel was an innocent bystander in that one, really. You can understand the aggression later on from Banerjee, but it was a bit misplaced. He's on a better line, and Heppel's wide, so no, he's just made a small bit of contact there, and that's the result. Well, that's going to be investigated for sure. But meanwhile, the checkered flag waves for Benjamin Roberts, who wins again in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship. He is dominating this season with yet another victory, and this time 3.5 seconds out of Colangelo, moving a step closer to the title. Milne, meantime, in the background finishes just ahead of Parks, who finishes 3 positions ahead of Watson to gain a few points, and McLaren 3 positions behind to lose a few. That will set up the championship finale quite nicely, if indeed Watson is not there at the final race of the season next week.
Yeah, and it's something that Watson will... Oh, look at this. Why not? Why not? Robertson's heading to the burnout pad. You love to see it, don't you? Winton is one of the few tracks that's really nicely set up for this, and we may as well take it all in.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't really know these cars could do such a nice donut, to be honest with you. Thought they'd be too unpowerful, but apparently not. There you go. Final drivers across the line at the moment, and we can bring you the race results once they have done. Which of course will have Benjamin Roberts winning again, 3.6 seconds this time ahead of Oisin Colangelo, with Thomas Hinds running out the top 3. Hayden Millington, Dan Ackland round out the top 5 ahead of Dan Byrne and Tom Donoghue, who finishes ahead of his teammate, and Silver Class winner Angus Milne finishes ahead of Tom Parks in the end. One rider rounds out the top 10 ahead of Kane Ryder, with Alexia Watson losing those few points from 12. Jackie Tung spun from the lead, of course, and finishes 13th ahead of Tony Nightingale and Tristan McLaren rounding out the top 15. Rishabh Banerjee finished ahead of Mark Heppel in the end after that late crash with Dylan Little in the middle. Ian O'Neill and Matthew Vince rounding out the top 20, with 1 lap down for William Fraser. Ben Ryder didn't finish, neither did Mitchell halfway. Scott Bartine didn't start in the end. And as you can see, by the way, Scott Bartine 12 points for 24th. You can start to understand how many drivers that Colangelo needs to be at the final race to actually overtake Roberts in the standings, even if he has a very bad final round of the season. Let's chat to Roberts, though, at the end of tonight's races. Benjamin, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Congrats on another double win here tonight in a sprint round of this championship. It was bit more complicated in race 2. You had to come from behind and make the overtake, but were you ever concerned that you were not going to be able to do it on the circuit? I guess the plan for you would have been, well, I'll just overtake in the pit stop phase if you can't get it done in the circuit. It certainly seemed to look like that was the plan for you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I wasn't really thinking about to overtaking the pits. As more as wanting to be ahead and be in front if the rain came, and not having to be stuck behind her in the pit entry. So I was more worried about that. That's why I kept trying to go for the lead. Really good racing from everyone pretty much in both races. There's a couple of tiny incidents, but for how tight this track is, I think everyone had a pretty good effort tonight.
Absolutely, and you'll have a very big lead going into the last race of the season now as well. Should be 95 points, I think, which is, as I say, a very big advantage. I mean, you must be very confident that you can hold on to that championship lead to the end now.
Yeah, well, certainly. Although, it's nothing's over till it's over. So, still got to prepare for Suzuka the same I have for every other round, and just try and get to the finish and have some fun.
Well, congrats again on the double victory tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. That's Benjamin Roberts, double winner tonight ahead of Oisin Colangelo, who finishes second in both races as well. Oisin, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats on another double podium, although behind Roberts on these two occasions. How are you feeling at the end of that race? It's another solid load of points, but of course, same driver in front of you, unfortunately, in both races tonight.
Yeah, just consistent results throughout the season, I suppose. Ben's just that 1-2 tenths too quick. Got in front of him at the start, but I knew with how many laps there was that he was going to find a way past. If it was on track or in the pits, I knew. So I just enjoyed it while I could in the lead.
And it gives us the situation now where he's obviously a long way in front in the championship going into the final race of the season, but it's not over because there is a case of an undroppable final race of the season. But how are you viewing this season overall now that it's coming towards a conclusion, with second place looking very secure for you? You're certainly not going to finish any lower than second place this season. How are you beginning to sort of sum up this season?
I think considering where I was in the FRG late last year, I think I've made some good improvement. I was nowhere near Benjamin's pace or anyone that's in the top 5 this season, so I think it's a good learning experience, and hopefully we can find 1 to 2 tenths before the next season and give Ben a real challenge.
Absolutely. Well, look forward to it. But for now, Oisin, congratulations on another double podium tonight, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That is Oisin Colangelo in second place both times tonight. Thomas Hinds on the podium tonight as well in the third position in race number 2. Thomas, welcome in. Good to have you with us. We'll start with, we'll get the bad stuff out of the way first, I guess, with race number 1. Tell us about how your race chances came to a rather early end in race number 1 tonight.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ewan. Good to be here. That wore bad and then it just kind of kept going, really. Obviously, Jackie behind me ran into me there, and obviously I couldn't do anything. I gave all the room and just sort of got ran into. But I mean, to be fair, looking back at it, he had a car sort of looking at him too, so it was a bit one of those awkward deals, I think, where it just was a bit too tired and bit sort of second-guessy stuff, and I just was the one that was unlucky to be on the outside and get the raw end of the stick. So obviously that happened, and then I was trying to sort of fight through, and then Vaughan spun on his own. The first hairpin at the back of the circuit, and I had nowhere to go and got clipped and had to take a meatball and pit. So just one of those races where the race was like, you're not going to have a result. Sorry.
Yeah, one of those things. But you were able to bounce back in race number 2. I mean, the group at the beginning, especially, was really quite large. How did you sort of fight your way through that and navigate that? Because you were driving on your own for a lot of that first race, and suddenly into a very big group for the race lead in race number 2.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good to obviously bounce back. I was happy in a way that the bad luck was in the sprint, obviously, because more points in the feature, so it was sort of ideal for it to happen that way rather than the other way around. Got a clean start. I just wanted to, obviously, after the first race, I just wanted to get through the first lap without getting taken out, so just kind of took it easy. Hayden got through, but that was okay. I just sat behind him, and it was just about keeping pressure on. I mean, around here, because it's obviously so tight and twisty, it's extremely hard to pass in pretty much any car. I was just thought I'll just keep on Hayden's back end and just keep the pressure on, and he started making a few errors, so I just kept the pressure on, and then eventually made the mistake in the first hairpin. I was able to sneak under him and get it done. And then obviously Kane and Richard had their mangle, which gave me a couple spots there. So then suddenly I was on for a podium, and pace was really good. So I thought I should be able to hold it, so I was just sort of, after I got through, I was just trying to hold pace, keep a good gap behind so I could hold on, and that's how it went. So really nice to bounce back after the first race, and good to get another podium. It's been a while since I've got one in this series, so good to get one.
Absolutely. Congrats on that tonight, Thomas, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end as well.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's Thomas Hinz in third place in tonight's second race. As he says, first time since Motegi that he's been on the podium this season, and getting ever closer to third in the championship, which might be a discussion point next week. Angus Milne is our silver class winner from race 1 and 2 here tonight after penalties applied and so on. Angus, welcome in and congratulations on a very successful evening at Winton. Were you expecting to go well around here? Is this a circuit you like, or a bit of a surprise?
Well, a bit of a surprise, really. I raced it in the recruitment series here early in the year, but after being demoted to silver, I wasn't expecting much. But it was nice to have a bit of fun around here.
So I think is that it? Did you hear him okay, Jared? I had some very bad connection problems there. Yeah, Jared?
Hello.
Yes, so I've got you fine here, Angus. You're still with us.
Okay. I'm struggling, so you go ahead, Jared.
No worries. Look, yeah, certainly a fun little race, Angus, and a very tight bit of pack racing there that you were caught up in for a while. We saw that carry on. Look, still a few points on offer with the championship not completely decided in terms of total standings. Thoughts going into the final race? What's the plan for the Everything Simulated team?
Well, I'm myself pretty much way out of the championship now. I've missed a few rounds, but for me, the focus is on helping the team. Tristan's still in the championship, seeing what he can do in the last round. So we're just going to see what happens, see what we can make of it, and have a bit of fun.
Nice one. Well, look, a solid result for you tonight. Some good points in that Silver Championship, even if you are out of it. And looking forward to seeing you next round. Of course, we start to wrap all of this up, and I'm sure we'll see a train of Everything Simulated cars out on track in qualifying, especially as we look to the final race results. Congrats again on the win tonight in the Silver class.
Thank you very much. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, Angus.
Well, thanks for taking that one, Jared. It sounded like someone was dropping a box of nails on the floor every time that his mic was open, so I don't know what was going on there, but I can hear you fine. Just so I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, thankfully those issues will come right at the end, because otherwise it could have been a very difficult evening. But anyway, that is just about it from us here at Winton. I think a decent couple of races here tonight, that's for sure, and that's how we're currently looking in terms of the championship standings. That has 93. Is that 93? I'm trying to work it out. Mental maths. Looks about 93 points or so. The gap between Colangelo and Roberts. Again, with bonus points and all other things post-race to be figured out, we'll wait and see what the actual gap is at the end or the start, of next week's broadcast. But one thing is for sure, that Roberts has pretty much almost already got this one sewn up, and the final race is going to be rather about the battle for third a little bit, the battle for the Silver Class Championship as well, but not particularly about the battle for the overall championship, which seems to already be settled.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I think Roberts has done enough here that just showing up next week will be enough for him to take the championship. Barring, of course, we shouldn't entirely count out the possibility of some sort of enormous points penalty or time penalty being applied, but doesn't seem likely with the way Roberts has been driving all season. The Silver Championship, look, it is a reasonable gap that Watson has managed to build up here tonight. We're talking, 52 points? Again, my mental math not fantastic this time of the evening, but it's a reasonable amount when you consider that most of the Silver drivers have not picked up, triple-digit points at any stage during this season. In fact, for Alexi Watson to be sitting on 314 7 rounds in, with a drop round out of that, it might even be enough. It's going to be tight, and it's going to be one to keep a very close eye on next week. But it might have given Alexi Watson just enough of a lead to hold on to it, even if unable to make the final round.
Absolutely. We will wait and see what happens with Watson there, but either way we'll have to wait until next week to find out. That's just about it from us here at Winton in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship, supported by Player One Sim Gear, of course, as well the Capstone Marketing and Print Racer. Big thanks to them for their support in this series. We'll be back in 1 week's time for the final race of the season at Suzuka. It will be a feature round, just one 45-minute race to decide our champions in gold and silver categories, and all the positions on the podium behind that as well. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Jared Cole here tonight until we see you in 1 week's time. For that finale at Suzuka, it's goodbye for now.